Hi, I've uploaded a few topics that are pretty important, but I've been leaving out something, I've been leaving out somebody in particular. I want to talk about this person and two things about this person, at least my trying to understand my reactions and so forth with this person. I won't mention the person's name. I wanted to mention two things about that, and I also wanted to mention some thoughts on the nice event that I had yesterday. I went to a temple for the first time in a long while, and I took a Christian friend with me. He really wanted to go. He's been curious about Judaism. He grew up Christian. He's moved around the world with his wife. It's a great opportunity. And I should say, I'm also getting over sickness I've had for about a week. I have been taking some medication to, basically for nasal congestion, and it may be actually the thing that's helping me out. Anyway, I can't wait for this stupid cold to be over. Okay, on to the more difficult thing. This other person, I won't mention the person's name, but it's something several decades ago. I've been wondering, well, with this reunion of a lot of people, this high school reunion coming up. I guess I can say high school reunion coming up. It's been several decades. I've been on and off wondering about this other this other person has been on my mind sometimes for brief moments. I've been wondering why this need, this urge to hear from this other person that that there's a sign of respect, or that there's that this other person thinks not just thinks well of me, but is impressed by things that I do, things that I create. Like, for example, this YouTube channel was one of those things that was partly inspired by, really inspired by something this other person said. This other person said that I should be sharing my thoughts and ideas with the rest of the world. So I did that. And then about a year later, I wanted to get recognition. That's the key word, recognition, from this other person. I looked forward to having it because I was sure this other person would say something nice about it, and you're doing a good job, and I'm proud of you, and so forth. Unfortunately, there was an outside event that screwed things up and really played with my frustrations at the time, and it screwed up my relationship with this other person too. So I don't know if we'd ever be friends again. I've been talking with someone else who has said that, all right, I'll just call them, in this video alone, I'll just say that this other person that I've been concerned about is Elizabeth, and that this, so Elizabeth, so I've been concerned that, whether Elizabeth thinks well of me anymore, with in good light. So I reached out to, some time ago, I reached out to somebody I'll call Amy, and Amy said essentially, no, she's sure that Elizabeth does think well of me again, even though there's been no communication between Amy and Elizabeth. So going into the reunion, I'm not sure if I'd see Elizabeth. I'm sort of prepared not to, and I've been thinking about writing a note so I can just give it to her, or have my notes together, so that I'd be able to say all that I wanted to say, or just hand it to her and just walk away or something. I'd want to say that, and I'm deviating away from the two things I wanted to say in this video. But anyway, I'll make it short. I wanted to write in the note that that I'd still be happy to be friends, and I understand if we can't be, but at least I hope that you think well of me, and we're on good terms, because in general, my instinct towards people in general is to want to be good friends. You know, there's a moment that there's a moment at the end of the movie Stand By Me from 1986 where, well, actually the whole movie Stand By Me, there's a character called Chris who is characterized by rumors, so forth, as being as what was he's I don't remember exactly how he's characterized. He like a thief. Oh, like for one thing, he's characterized as having taken milk money, and you can read into it, and just the way he reacts to things in general, how he says that other people don't understand him or something like that. That it's not just that one incident about people thinking he stole milk money, that he's misjudged and misperceived and so forth. So I so later on at the end of the movie, oh no, during there are moments during the movie where he, like for example, like is about to walk away from like about to end a scene, so to speak, with one of his friends. There's like a group of four of them or five, something like that. Together, they're on a journey, and there's this one moment where he says, "Hey," something like, "Hey, still friends." He wants to, if nothing else, he wants to have no disagreements or no harsh feelings between them, if nothing else. So that's been my instinct. Like whatever happens with people, not just with Elizabeth, but with people in general, I don't want harsh feelings. So anyway, going back to those two things. So one thing in my mind has been, why do I feel this compulsion to hear from her that she thinks well of me, or she thinks she's impressed by things that I've accomplished. I can think of another moment. I can think of Rocky, and particularly, well, Rocky, but the end of the sequel, Rocky 2, of course. There's a moment, you'd have to see the movies, great movies, by the way, but he's a Rocky 2. He's, of course, it's a boxing movie, so it's about somebody who trains and gets literally battered to a bloody mess in the climax of the first movie. And in the second movie, he tries to get work. He overspends, so he finds himself in debt, and he's just married somebody, Adrian, and so he needs to go back to work, but nobody will hire him. So the only option he has left is to go into boxing again. And like that's the only thing he has going for him. So he trains and trains and trains, and he's going against the same person that he fought but lost to at the end of the first movie. And you'd have to see the movie. At the end, both of them are so weak that they fall to the ground in the boxing ring, but he's the one that is able to stand up and remains kind of upwards, not standing necessarily, but just remain kind of upwards. And so he's declared the winner. So Adrian is watching at home, or Adrian is watching elsewhere. And there's this one moment where he holds up the belt that he's won up in the air, and he says, "Adrian, I want to say something to my wife." And with all of his might, he says, "I did it." And that speaks volumes to me, because it's like it's like an everyman. Rocky has been an everyman. If you watch the Rocky movies, there are metaphors in there about going through life struggles and being able to cope with things that are thrown your way. It's like it's a metaphor for having to put up and struggle and cope with all this stuff. And he's proud. Not only is he proud that he was able to overcome it, but he's proudly telling her, "I did it," as if he wants recognition from her that he was able to do it. And so that's the sentiment, that's the feeling that I guess I've wanted in some sense from Elizabeth. And so other people have asked, why is it so important and so forth? Well, I guess that's the reason. And it's also that I feel really happy when somebody sees my work as an artist, principally. Like, I also got a car, and I was able to ask her, and hey, my new car, are you proud? In so many words, are you proud of me or something? And she said, yes, I'm proud. I think she said, yes, I am proud of you. That means a lot. And I'm thinking of my mom too. It's a similar kind of motivation. So back to the note. If I were to go to high school reunion and see her again, I'd want to have this note I can just give to her, where I can put all my thoughts down, so I won't be mumbled and at a loss for words, and get everything else I want to say out, because I don't know if I'd have another opportunity. I'd want to say that I would understand if we can't be friends. It's not, friends would be nice, but at least that she understands and what I've gone through, and she acknowledges it, and she says something about it. She said very little, and that's something that's really bothered me. She said very little of what I've had to cope with and struggle through. Partly trying to, like I said earlier on in some video, I tried to open up, and this thing with Elizabeth was this chance in high school that I finally opened up, and I wanted to show people that I'm not such a geek or weirdo or I'm worth being friends with. And of course, this male and female thing, it's I guess guys too. I would have wanted to have the other guys know that I'm not whatever stereotype or geek or wamby-pamby or namby-pamby or whatever they call, or just silent guy that nobody knows about or whatever. I didn't want people to have that impression of me. I wanted them to know that I'm a dynamic person, that I'm fascinated and passionate about film and whatever else with Star Trek and history and politics at the time and art and somewhat music, not much. Now I've since been more interested in music, composing music, just things in general. I'm a very interesting person to talk with, and so there was that. In terms of girls, women, I guess later on, but technically girls in high school. I wanted that too, but I wanted to reach out to somebody like Elizabeth came along. I took that opportunity. I wanted. It's sort of like dating. It's, but it's not. It's a unique version of dating where I wanted some girl to in the class to see that I have all these other aspects about me. Not necessarily that we would go on romantic dates or something, but that this it's like a level. It's like one of the level. It's like there are different varying degrees of dating, I guess, and I would have wanted any of those degrees, and one of them would be just acknowledgement that and knowing that she was aware that there's more to me than some face that doesn't talk to anybody or like just is not in the clique, is not in the popular crowd. That's principally what I want to say. It's not in the popular crowd with everybody else, with with these other people and so forth. I couldn't wait to get out of high school, to finish high school, and to go on with my life. And that sort of goes into the other thing that I wanted to talk about in terms of her, Elizabeth. I I have all these other aspects. I wanted to go into film. I wanted to go into writing for television. Star Trek was my favorite, still is my favorite TV show, and there are a lot of different aspects of the show that people don't realize. And you may have seen my earlier videos recently, this sick period, where I've been uploading these videos. And I know I've been saying a number of times. This is real time recording, no editing. I was fascinated by Star Trek and fascinated by politics. I wanted to be a television creator like Gene Roddenberry, who created Star Trek, and there was Rod Serling, who created The Twilight Zone, and I enjoyed these shows like Silver Spoons. My whole life, like early childhood growing up, it was Silver Spoons, it was Benson, it was All in the Family, Dennis the Menace, You Can't Do That on Television, stupid plow going over. It was now Welcome Back, Kotter, but like television, all sorts of television shows I grew up watching, including Star Trek and the Monkees and the Munsters, and I mean I'm trying to list like a whole bunch of them all at once, 60s and 80s, some 70s, and that's what inspired me to want to become a film writer. And I had planned to go to Hollywood after high school and go to college. And I thought of UCLA and USC. And this is what really bothers me. I wanted to get into those schools. Now, I knew that I had the ability and aptitude for it. And I had already been writing television scripts and sending them off to production companies like Benson, the production company that creates Benson. Well, not necessarily Benson, but I mean like Married with Children. And I'd written some for Married with Children, and one for Star Trek: The Next Generation, and probably others I can't remember. One for Night Court. And I was so eager to go off and, number one, fulfill my passion and direct destiny that I felt my future was. I wanted to become a television writer. And I also wanted to develop myself so that I can go back and show everybody in high school that I'm not, yeah, I was, I guess, I was out of the popular clique, but this is who I am, like my identity. People are talking about how they identify themselves and so forth. This is my identity. I identify with the writers who were quoted in books about writing for. Well, let's just take. I wasn't quite reading books as much about how to create screenplays at the time. It was more like Star Trek, books about Star Trek, and maybe a few other shows. But here and there you get exposed to other people in the field that you want to get into, and I would come across quotes from fellow writers, and I felt like they were kinship to me, and I felt at home with that, and I didn't really feel at home in school. I wanted to get out of that, and I wanted to go towards the home that I felt was really my home, with my kinship, so to speak. And so I could show them that I really am capable of a lot. They didn't really talk with me in school. They didn't get to know me. So with Elizabeth, it was just a lark. I just opened up with a nice thing, a nice writing I gave her, and it's still confusing as to what happened, and I don't want to get into that to reveal too much. I'd probably reveal too much information, but there are two things I wanted to talk about. There's the I keep wanting to say competence. There's the motivation, the need to hear from this other person or people in general that I am capable of a lot, or that when I do achieve something, that they recognize that and they give me appreciation. And the other thing about her I wanted to talk about, the second thing is when I would ask other people, and also her, she didn't, when I would talk about complicated topics or complex topics, sometimes she and other people have lost me in terms of was a loss of communication, or like going over their heads or something, and I think that Elizabeth is what has confused me in the past. Elizabeth seems capable of understanding a lot and having deep insight, and that's the aspect that draws me to her. But what pushes me away seems to be, well, one of the things seems to be like when there's a lack of, when she says, I don't want to risk getting into what she said. When there's a disconnect in terms of getting across my thoughts to her, it's like when she understands what I'm talking about, when I'm sharing ideas, it's really nice, and the friendship, so to speak, moves forward. I don't want to say escalates. That's maybe too much, but it moves forward in a positive direction, and also I'll say accelerates. And then when there's when she doesn't seem to understand, or says she doesn't understand where I'm coming from, it really decelerates. It like puts on the brake on the friendship, and I've been struggling with that for a long time, and it saddens me. And I don't know where we stand now, and I don't want to make things hard on her. I've stayed away, aside from two moments, really, a year apart. The first part being really nice, and where it seemed to accelerate. I mean, I don't mean accelerate like it's rushing forward. I mean just it seemed to be moving forward positively. And then this about a year later, this second thing, for some outside force came in, and I screwed up me financially and mentally, and I lashed out and on social media, and screwed up relations with her. So I don't know if we talk again. Maybe this other person, Amy, is correct that she has forgiven what happened, and I've taken it as that. I right now, as I cope with fleeting thoughts about her and wondering about whether she respects me again, I have imagined that she's going through a lot in her life, and I would be burdening her more if I tried to step in. I've stepped in to try and develop a friendship or relationship of some kind. Again, the different degrees. And what do I want from the friendship? Well, when it's broken like this, I'd at least want it repaired, and I'd want to know from her that things are okay again, and she respects me, and she's maybe seen my YouTube videos, and she thinks I'm doing something very good and positive and constructive, and she's happy with the projects I've been doing, because I don't know if I'd amount to very much of what I wanted in life. And in high school, I imagined myself as being famous, and not just famous for fame's sake, but a productive and somebody like Rod Serling or Gene Roddenberry, or I don't know if these names are meaningless to you. They're people who created television series that have stood the test of time, that millions of people around the world love and are passionate about, and it's made a positive contribution to our world, and they were able to express themselves artistically and express their thoughts, and they were able to, with that fame, they were able to go speak at conventions and share their ideas further, and be a positive influence. And part of that was part of the inspiration for that, the motivation, the need for that, was also a need to go into politics. I guess it's too poison. Politics is too poison to go into now. And I've been thinking for brief, fleeting moments about making a video about what I would do if I were president. And something I had been developing in college, and I quit at some point when I realized I don't have the resources to be able to do it. And I don't remember where I was at this point, but I also want to talk about this nice thing that happened to me. I guess I should mention, before going into that, I should mention that maybe that had something to do with me actually making this video about Elizabeth, because this thing yesterday, a few years back, I met my next door neighbor. We're no longer neighbors. I mean, I moved and he moved some years back. But my mom and I moved into a house under like a stressful situation, and I think she's, ever since I knew her, I think she was suffering from schizoaffective disorder. It's my guess, just based on these observations of her and behavior and so forth. But she was very kind, and I don't want to besmirch that. She was one of the best mothers. I really do mean this. She was one of the best mothers anybody could have. She was caring, and she would check in on me, and she had a great smile, and she was also somebody that wanted to leave on friendly terms with everybody. But she would speak about the neighbors wherever we lived. She would speak about the neighbors bothering and harassing her, next door neighbors, and whistles and sounds and yelling things at her and so forth. So I'm guessing that there was some schizoaffective aspect to it, and I wish it hadn't been that way. Anyway, we move into a new house, and she dies. She'd been saying that the next door neighbors the new next door neighbors were doing the same thing. So she had only some glances or like say hello or some greetings or something with the real next door neighbors, and she never really got to know them. And it was the morning that I discovered her dead in her sleep that I went to the hospital, just feeling faint. I wanted to get away from the house, and it was at that moment that I found out later that the next door neighbor, who's a little bit younger than I am, came out. He was curious what was going on. There was an ambulance there or something. And then after, so I was in the hospital, like in a recovery room, just like by myself, just recuperating and emotionally. And when I felt it was time, I want to go back home. I feel content. So he picked me up. He didn't know that much about me, I guess, but he picked me up and he drove me so we could eat something. I think it was a lunch, and it was really nice. And then I went over to a friend's house and then spent that time. There was election returns, and then I watched that, and I felt I was okay enough to go home at that night, and slept in that house alone for the first time. And so anyway, he had moved. So in the next couple of months, I found out I had to move, and I moved to essentially where I am now, the apartments complex I am in now. And then he had to move. They had to move, and then he's returned to the city I'm in. I don't remember exactly where, but he's been curious about Judaism, and that's really nice. I don't want to necessarily convert him, but I'm happy. I personally think that Judaism has a lot to offer. It's very rich. It's socially mature. It's not like Christianity. It's not. There's a whole culture around it that I think is very healthy, healthy for people in general. So I'm happy that he's been studying, and he's been going to a few ones in one of those other cities he's lived in. And so now that he's here, he wanted to go with me last night, Friday night, to services. And so I drove him to services, and actually I drove over to I picked him up, and then I didn't feel like going through. I don't have that much experience driving at night, and I've been sick and so forth, through cities with like over highways and so forth. So I was okay with letting him drive the car there and back, and then I drove, so forth. So where to pick him up? He was on the same street as Elizabeth used to live on. And so while I was driving over there, I remembered Elizabeth, and I wanted, I didn't want people thinking that I was stalking Elizabeth or something after 30 years or something. It was a coincidence. So it's on the same street, it's some blocks away. So I go and I soon find which house it was. He's doing work on somebody's house. That's why he was there. So he's going to be picked up at that place where he was working on. He was doing work for somebody at that house on the street, same street, blocks away from where Elizabeth used to live. And so I picked him up from there, and it was happy. He's a very happy, open person, and we drove. He's has like a glint in his eye. He's very big smile, and so we go over to services. I was very happy, and we come home and park in my parking lot. He has an Uber or a friend or something waiting to take him home from there, and he gives me another big hug, and he walks off towards the car, and I go home. I walk down the stairs into my own apartment, and you know the song that was running through my head was the opening theme song to 21 Jump Street. And I posted it on Facebook with some nice phrase. I don't remember what I said, but go look up the theme song to 21 Jump Street. And that's how I felt. I hadn't been to Services Temple really in several months, I think. So it was really nice. But beyond that, I remember writing something in the message on Facebook, something about childhood. It reminded me of childhood and my desire to be in a place like with the same sentiment as was in 21 Jump Street. And that's something like the feeling that I felt about writing, TV writing. And nobody's going to be watching this video, so who cares? So I'm going to let it all out. That 21 Jump Street song is one of those strong, deep feelings and urges I've had. So then I thought of another song, thought of another opening theme song. It was from Kid Video. It was a Saturday morning cartoon, and would have been one of the earliest I had watched, really. I mean, Looney Tunes and so forth may have been the first cartoon I ever watched, but it was when I was about 9. I remember those cartoons, 8 something. I remember those Saturday morning cartoons. I did one about what were the earliest movies I watched in a movie theater. I should do another video identifying like what were the first cartoons I remember watching, or at least the earliest ones I remember watching. Saturday morning cartoons. Kid Video is one of them. And I guess why that came up, well, for one thing, in the opening theme, you see several friends in a band meeting up to go to practice in the garage or whatever. And so I guess that jives with the opening to 21 Jump Street. The theme song to 21 Jump Street is very dynamic and well, just very dynamic in a positive, energetic way. And that's how strong I felt about it, how strong it felt to me. So that also ties in with Elizabeth. In addition to coincidentally being on the same street, just several blocks down from where she used to live, that it's the same that sentiment is similar to the basic kind of friendship feeling that I'd want with Elizabeth. I guess I want a community of people that care about me and would stick up for me. Like, I'm thinking through the lyrics to the 21 Jump Street. I'll just recite them. A place where I'm mixing up the lyrics somewhat, perhaps, but you want to find a place where we belong, place where you belong. We won't let you down. We won't let you fall. So you're free to decide what you believe. You'll find a group of people who care, and they'll stick up for you. In so many words, they'll stick up for you, and they'll catch you when you fall, and camaraderie and so forth. And I had some of that. I remember in the first of the two elementary schools, I moved at the beginning of fourth grade, and I felt that feeling more at Wetzel Road. At least that's how I remember it. And I mentioned this friend of mine, and we would talk philosophically. We talk about Star Trek. Well, not Star Trek. It was Star Wars and Transformers. I hadn't really been interested in Star Trek yet. And there was a deeper bond, and I feel that way about him at the time, and feel that way now about him and some other people. But I wish I could have a place like that with a group of people like that are spoken about in the song. And what does that relate to Elizabeth? I've been talking about wanting like some sense of respect from her and recognition of what I've been able to accomplish, and somewhere the two meet together, I think. So that's all I wanted to say. It's almost 45 minutes, so I'll leave it at that, and I wish you well. And at some point when I get over this sickness, I'll be able to do the videos that I usually do with an open, all heavily, well edited, and it looks professional and so forth. I don't know if I'll be able. I have these scripts and YouTube channel, and I've been thinking of the books that I have available on Kindle, and I don't think anybody sold any. I really haven't been advertising that I've written them. One of them is about, it's a compendium or a compilation of a lot of my creative work that actually excludes the scripts for Night Court and so forth, because those are other intellectual properties and I don't want to mix the two up. And there's another book about memoirs about certain topics in my life. And there's another thing about my experience being a Star Trek fan. And maybe I'd want to develop those further and revise them. Nobody's probably read them or bought them, so that gives me an opportunity to do more. And I'm thinking about this high school reunion, and I imagine them going up to me and being happy. Oh, Jeff, hi. But I also imagine that they've accomplished a lot in their lives, and a lot more, apparently, or seemingly, the way they come across, the way people come across You can compare one superficially, like they've accomplished more than I have, even though intellectually I've accomplished a lot, and they accomplished a lot considering the lack of resources I've had. Maybe somebody will recognize what I have accomplished. I still don't know what Elizabeth thinks of me. So I'll leave it at that. Thanks. Bye.